Well, let's go see what old Dee Dee's speed shop is. What are you doing?
Nothing. I'm not doing anything. I'm definitely not moving the computer because the internet was wrong. These batteries, they can explode and they'll ruin everything. So we'll just drill a bunch of holes. I'm gonna, is this good internet? Is that good? Is that far enough away from the exhaust and the there might be a cascading acid effect on me. When those batteries go, they go. Dan here, Dee Dee Speed Shop. So, last we were working in the garage on the 56 Chevy wagon, we had just fired it up, and it immediately RPM'd to the moon. Now, in no way could have my wiring had anything to do with this. So, I took a quick break. Well, a 24-hour break the next day. And I thought, okay, we're going to clean the garage up, you know, kind of get some stuff organized, think about it a little bit, talk to a few people. And I thought to myself, gotta be something I'm missing here. And ultimately, this motor, this 6-liter motor, was in a Chevy 3/4 ton running fine. And I pulled it out, and all we did was change the oil pan, put a set of headers on it, change the throttle body, and have it running off of a Holley Terminator X instead of the factory ECU, and we put a fuel pump in it. So nothing changed with a tune or nothing like that. No, I thought, okay, maybe it's a wiring thing and this and that, but it's just, for me, it was vacuum leak. It was like any car vacuum leak, just revving. So I thought, okay, we checked the grounds, did a few things like that. We reset the throttle position sensor a couple times, checked the TPS, did all those things. I was like, okay, what's going on here? Then I went out and looked at my 57 Chevy, which also has a 6-liter LS swap, which that motor, I don't think I touched one thing on it other than the oil pan. But anyways, this thing was a drive-by wire. We switched to a drive-by cable throttle body. And it was slightly different than the one on my 57. So lesson learned. Now what had happened was, what happened is, there's two little kind of vents in this throttle body. This one here I believe is PCV or something along those lines, or maybe just crankcase. Looks like it vents out, it would get sucked back in or something along those lines, and that's fine. And then there is a gap. Now, this is where I checked the other throttle body I had. This middle one is where the IAC goes, I believe, idle air control, so you can see in there. So it's very, very simple. That port should be 100% closed with this little plunger in the side, and as this moves forward and back, it allows more or less air in to control your idle speed, is how I interpret it. Basically, instead of just using a screw and a carburetor, you now have to use a little piece of electronics controlled by a computer. Now, this intake or throttle body, which I googled and people said they put on this going from drive-by-wire to drive-by-cable, clearly maybe not the case, or maybe the intake manifold I have is just not going to work for it. Because this center one, while it does have a hole through to the backside where the IAC is, I have it taped up now, but it did go the whole way through. So you have to picture an orifice that size being open under no load. Obviously it's going to RPM to the moon. So what I did, I put a piece of tape on the back, I got a bunch of JB weld and packed it in there. So now it matches the throttle body that is on my 57 Chevy. So that is completely closed. The only way for air to go through is through the throttle body. And this one has a hole drilled in it too. I don't know if the other one did or not. I'll have to check on that, but whatever. The only way for more air to go through this throttle body, if we're not opening and closing it with the throttle, is now through this IAC. I guess I can actually kind of just show you. So that will be in essentially stoppering it, and as this comes out, it'll let air go through here, bypass the throttle blade, up through this little orifice and in, and that's how it's supposed to work. I also ordered a different gasket for it, which is meant for that style of throttle body. However, the fact that it's open here, I just didn't feel like a gasket alone would seal it properly. So we'll go with the two-prong, we'll call it a fork effect. So this is still drying. It's, well, as you can see, it's getting there. Now, I think this will be 100% fine. It's got a bunch of stuff to grab onto. We're going to have a gasket behind it to hold it all in there. There's going to be no boost coming through there whatsoever. It's only going to be naturally aspirated. And there's no fuel or anything. It'll just be clean air touching that. So there's going to be nothing that will cause that to let go or have any issues. So this will take 4 to 6 hours to set up. It's been maybe 2, and it'll be fine. Problem solved, I think, but we're going to find out, well, in this episode at some point. Man, the heater's just always on. So, now we got that solved. That was a huge load off my mind. I was really concerned that I'd done something wrong or there was a problem or who knows what. And I'm just not very confident with all this stuff. So, luckily, it was a mechanical issue that I could fix. We're going to get that on there. The next thing we got, this is a bracket, which I don't know what I had it for, but this bottom size is like 700 R4 or the modern metric size transmission cables. When I say modern, I mean like 80s. So we're going to modify that to fit, as well as we're going to use this to probably hold a throttle cable, and we're going to end up using these top mounts right there. So that'll be pretty good. This will be cut up, modified. I also picked up a low-car knockoff gear head. I don't know, it was on eBay. Gas pedal. So we'll put that on there. It came with a cable, so that should be nice. I do have a spare cable somewhere else we can make work. Get that together. We're going to wire this thing properly. And once we get all that together, throttle body back on, the new gasket on, I think I just want to hang a radiator in it, fill it with water so we can actually make it idle, set the tune a little bit, hook up the transmission. We got a lot on the go today, but we're going to make this thing so it runs. I'm going to say drives, but there's no rear end in it, and there's no drive shaft. But in theory, it should work. Let's get after it. Well, it may not look super fantastic, but it is very much cleaned up. There's still like just a lot of junk. These LS motors always look, well, they look ugly. There's no bones about it. We do have a little cover to kind of hide some stuff, but it's going to be what it's going to be. So if you can see, but I ran a brand new ground right to the frame back there. We ran everything up along the back firewall, actually up around the back of the battery to all the connections. So that's good. This is where things get a little ugly. This is the main harness, obviously, so there's too much of it. So I ran it into the wheel well and then back and into the computer. We shortened up the supply power. That's all kind of there, just sitting there. Everything has been shrink connected together. On this side, I cleaned a few things up, just a little. Originally, I had the power for the car itself, the fuse panel running along, and then up to the battery. So I decided to go right into a fused connection, and we have our, relay and all that taken care of. So, ugly, but sanitary and very simple to work on. And now every single thing is fused. The only section of wire that is not, which I may actually put a little fuse on, is from here to the battery, and then the battery to the starter. So that's enough wiring for now that I'm confident in it. Grounds are all good and all that. And the next thing, the throttle body. So it's been a few hours, so I just kind of gave that a quick polish off. But as you can see now, that used to be a hole right through, right into the intake. I know it's kind of hard to explain before, but it lines up right there. So nobody home. So what I went and done, so I don't want to drop this. I got this gasket, which really would be fine. It blocks everything off, and it still allows, obviously, the air to come in through the idle air. The issue is there's no clamp right around this section of the throttle body. As you can see, it stops being a circle. So if I put that on there, I still think that would kind of blow in the wind. But I'm going to put that on there anyways, just to be on the safe side. It is O-ringed, so I think we'll be okay. Because because the O-ring goes around the outside of it. Where it kind of stops there will be in this section. So I might put a couple of dabs of silicone just to hold that, but worst case, this is all sealed, and if that ever decides to let go, it has to kind of go through this gasket, which guaranteed it can move. It's not perfect, but it is like that exhaust gasket, so it's kind of got a bit of a stamp to it once you tighten her up. So anyways, long story short, I want to get that on there because I think what I want to do next is hook up the throttle pedal and the transmission kickdown. We'll start working on that little bracketry. And honestly, I just want this together because the intake being open just makes me think I'm going to grind and I'm going to throw sparks in there because I know myself, so I can't trust myself. So we'll put this on. I'm not going to start it today. It's hard to the touch. It's been, like I said, 4 or 5 hours, but it recommends 12 before it's finally cured. But I mean, it's not coming out. We should be fine. It's an oddball shape, so I'm confident. I hope. So we're snaking this throttle cable. Now, it's a little on the long side. You can shorten these, but I thought, you know what? I'd rather it be just a little bit long with a nice swoop to it versus trying to keep it short and having it come right over and then a hard bend is my thought process. And as I've learned, it's easier to shorten a cable than lengthen a cable. But that's kind of what she looks like. Yeah, pretty simple little setup. Uses the factory mounts. We're all good there. Now, what I've come up with, watch the paint, for a throttle bracket. Man, this is a DD Speed Shop original right here. So this is a bracket that I had, which I have tacked together and made look extremely ugly. But we already have one stud right there, or what's it called? Not cert. Anyways, I can put a second one right there, so that'll kind of bolt like that. That square where my finger is, right there, we'll just kind of weld a washer on it, and then this can fit right through, and essentially it's like straight in line with the throttle body. This one here, I've taken a bend down. Now, what we're gonna do, of course that won't really stay there. What we're gonna end up doing, I gotta do a little bit of mathematics or figuring, but this is the old cruise control for like this style. I've seen guys, what they'll do is they'll cut this, literally flip it 180. So right now, the idea is as you're accelerating, it'll hold it back, you know, but if you have it flipped down that way, it'll actually pull forward. So then this, I boned it, but essentially it'll kind of come in something like that, attach down there, and then as you wrap the throttle, it'll give it a pull. Now we don't have to do much. Maybe it's an inch. This thing is extremely adjustable here, as well as the end is adjustable. So we have all that taken care of. So I think this should work out pretty good. So if we do that, obviously I'll triangulate it across here. Piece of steel, something across there. I'll get that all welded up. We'll paint it black. We'll grind it down. And I gotta find just a washer or something like that. Whatever this is, pretty small, 5/16 or something like that. We'll put that on there, weld at both sides. And then this again actually is adjustable, right? This is a pretty good little setup. It was, I think it was $80 on eBay. There was no instructions, so I had to Google it. And I Googled Tri-5 throttle cable, and a low car one came up, and it was relatively close, so that's what we used. So I'm gonna get to welding. This is pretty boring. I mean, that's the Mark 1 version. We'll snap our fingers and end up with the finished product, or the next stage. It may take 2 or 3 tries. Well, it's actually the next day. Got kind of caught up and stuff, but I just kind of welded this bracket together real primitive. It could be, whoa, a bit of a hairdo this morning, but that's what she looks like. Now, there was a company like Chevy Overdrive or something like that that sells some sort of a kit you can kind of use, but I don't know, some flat bars and washers seem to work for me. So we have our throttle cable basically all hooked up. The gas pedal's a little cockeyed. Somebody went a little, heat torchy smashy on the firewall where the gas pedal hooks up and kind of bent it. So someone will have to fix that. The next thing we have, so I angled these down a little. So I don't know, I think that's a decent angle of approach. Now, this is the one, something fell. that we have to kind of make work. So at the end of the day, it has this little universal clip. We're going to steal it and flip it. So I believe we're just going to do 180 degrees. So I'm just going to get in there with the zip cut it across, be real ginger-like, not to nick any of this stuff. Then we'll just tack it on the other side. We'll give it a, a little attachment, and we'll see. Again, this doesn't have to go super far, maybe an inch worth of travel, but it is rather important that we get that taken care of, and I don't want to go any further until we get that dialed. This does have adjustment in it as well, so we can do a fair bit of playing on that. A screwdriver to do that, but ultimately you can play with it and do whatever we got to do. So I haven't drilled a second bolt there yet. I want to make sure this is 100% perfect. I might even take it apart and clean it up. No, I won't do that. I'll just drill a hole in it. So I'll get this cut off. I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, so here we go. So there's our 180 out, welded on. I was talking to my buddy Wes over at Complete Toilet Garage. That's what he told me he'd done before on these 700s. He also then told me I was an idiot and I should get an electronically controlled transmission. But luckily the internet has been super nice. It hasn't said anything bad about these 700Rs. Now, this thing has, it's all the way in. It's got just it goes real easy for this much, and then you start to feel it. So, I don't know, I put it, so it's definitely got lots of slack. Well, it's a little hot, but I can't really do this. Ouch! I can't really do it two-handed, or one-handed, sorry. But I then adjust it up here. There is no more pull, so I think it should be fine. I'm happy with it. Yeah, we got that. I took that off just so I didn't weld it and break these little cables. They don't like weld, eh? They like to. So that's all dialed together. We got to drill a hole in that, but that's fine for now. What else we got working on? Oh yeah, underside transmission. So I got to put cooler lines on. I think I have a set somewhere. And I found this is I think that's for that 700. It's like a proper bell housing cover for the torque converter and everything. So once I do that, all the wires and everything I can kind of run and zip tie around there, and nothing's going to get ripped apart. Man, we're making lots and lots of progress. Well, we got the lines there. I just have them looped. These aren't the ones I'm going to use. These are just ones I had. I'm going to use some, probably make my own nickel copper, really get them up nice. I think what I'm going to do is wrap them around the Holly computer a few times, so when the battery acid and the heat from the headers all gets together there, it'll really just like cook it, like a basting. This did not fit, which I'm sure you guys probably knew that. 700R little bell housing cover is not going to fit on the LS flex plate, so if we do use, we'll have to just do a little trimming. No big deal. I always got the converter bolted up to the ring gear. I brought in this radiator. Now this is, I might even have a Tri-5 one I could probably use. Might be the way to go. Maybe I'll go downstairs and get that, because the Tri-5 has a center out. This one is some short track thing I had. So, and I have a miscellaneous universal spinny, so I can put this wherever I want. We just blocked off the heater hoses. There is a vent there, which we got to run some sort of hose and plug. Again, we're trying to have some water in the thing. If we can circulate a little bit, there's no thermostat in it. That'd be a bonus. Just when we start this thing, if it idles or runs away or runs to 7,000 RPM, it's got a little water in it. But yeah, I'm really thinking we should be able to do that. And really, that's the end of it, because until we get the radiator, there's no point putting the front end and all that together, because I have to modify it to the radiator. I want to make it fit really nice. And then we got a shifter cable and kind of little odds and ends, but running out of parts. Oh, the rear end, stupid rear end. Yeah, tomorrow will be good. I'm going to go check the basement for a different radiator. So here's our extra high mount, extra forward mount. Oh, the worst part about winter, you can't run the garden hose, but I gave it a quick swill first. So this radiator is, it's actually a Tri-5 rad that my buddy Josh got me. He used at a swap meet. It's actually like a Griffin, name brand one. Kind of irrelevant. I mean, nothing's circulating or anything. Any leaks? No. We just want to have some water in the block. But I ran a eBay aluminum radiator on my 57 before I put a big one in. And it did fine around town and all, but real hot days, it kind of warmed up a little bit to 210 or so, which I know for an LS isn't much. But I put that big honking one in, an aftermarket, and made it fit, and it was really nice. And this thing being a cruiser on the highway, out of town, I hate dealing with overheating issues. Also, our Canada heat is a little different than the down south heat, so if it passes here, it might be a little much in the south. But this will be fine for right now. And to hear me babble while I put gasoline water in this thing. So I'll do this, we'll get the computer, we'll probably gotta reset it, and reset the TPS and all that. See if it'll fire up and not idle to the moon. I'm excited. Oh, coming out that steam port. I guess I should have put something on there. Idiot. Okay, we've done a quick auto relearn. The lower radiator hose, well, she's leaking. I don't know if it's the gasket on the thermostat housing or just, I got an El Gianto hose, ramrod with a clamp, so that's not too bad. A couple liters down. Did the relearn? Oh, let's see what happens. I am confident. I'm going to sit in it. That's how confident I am. Fuel pump on. When I get to the gauge cluster I like, show oil pressure. Okay. The pumps are good luck. Look at that. 30 pounds oil pressure. Woo! Leaking a little. Runs good, nothing's touching nothing. Muffler's actually sound alright. Quiet. Hang on, I'll put the tripod out. Get on top of the red. I didn't hook up the vacuum. Hang on. I'll make this thing run way better. Just a second. Alright, so A, we had a vacuum leak, and B, the computer wasn't seeing a vacuum signal. So this should make things happier. Make things happier. Yeah, 29 pounds oil pressure, 900 RPM. She's a runner. So 27, 28 pounds oil pressure. It could be a little better. What are you gonna do? You know, air fuel's good. Obviously it has nothing else going with it. But it does run. It should in fact drive. Look at it yakking transmission oil anyway, all over the place, but I'm thinking that's good enough for now. I think I just have 530 in there, so maybe some thicker oil, pump the oil pressure a little bit, but I think these LSs just kind of do that. Or I should have, when I had it all apart, done all those little O-rings and stuff like that, but it'll be fine. We'll put some miles on it and see what happens. Yeah. Man, in the last video, you guys barbecued me on where I put the computer. Maybe it'll change, but if I do, you'll see in the video, but I'll never, ever, ever admit to being wrong. So, thank you very much for watching. Subscribe below, if you wouldn't mind. Hit the bell. All those things. It really makes a huge difference to the channel, helps us grow, and helps me ultimately waste more money on stupid projects and put it on the internet, which is the whole reason I'm here. It's cold, and I'm going inside. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.